Okay, that was Mushoku Tensei, Season 1, Episode 18. Can I say something right off the bat?
Sure.
Roxy had a scene where she cried this episode.
It's a fact, yes.
And it held on that for, like, about 10 seconds. And if any of you, if you are listening to this, have never tried to animate what it would look like for somebody to go from a straight face to crying, it is one of the most difficult things you could do or draw or animate, period, at least in my opinion. And when you're able to achieve what you were with an example of Roxy there, I think of like Mob Psycho in a similar vein. Oh my God. It's a treat. It helps convey the emotion of the story and the characters so well, and just thank you for whoever was in charge of animating that. That was beautiful, and I love this episode, man. I loved it so much.
There's something that's being done really, really well with Mushoku Tensei, which is this family and parental love is being handled in a really beautiful way. It's showing the complexities of it. It's showing the misunderstandings that are created by words not being spoken out loud. Like, hey, I love you out loud to your family members, to the people that you care about. And it's showing what misunderstandings can, especially in this episode, it was so, like, relatable. I don't know how many times that I have met someone or felt myself as a child misunderstand what was happening when my parents looked heartbroken or worried about me or sad about me. And I took it as like, I am to blame for these bad things that they are feeling. And really, why are they heartbroken? Why are they worried? Because of their love for you, and they don't want you to have to struggle, and they don't want you to cry, and they don't want you to be ostracized and alienated by the people around you. I mean, we got like a primary example of, like, I would say the scene that completely encompassed both the range of emotions of why Roxy's parents were great parents is in the same scene. Not only was her mother reading to her out loud and speaking to her out loud, but we see her father's reaction. And to a child, that reaction, you know, could have really hurt, you know, in this misunderstanding of why does my dad look so upset every time he looks at me. But what we saw there was that her parents are trying, they're protective, but they're also so worried and so unsure of what this is going to mean for the rest of her life, and how do they protect her, and how do they make her happy, how she's just going to keep getting older, and she's going to keep feeling more and more alienated and unable to make connections. It's probably only going to get worse as her communication, and as she grows up, she's going to want to communicate more and realize that she can't, and then running to her rescue when she tried to talk to those kids.
They were thinking about the interactions that hadn't even happened yet. They were thinking about the first time that confrontation was going to happen and that realization was going to happen. Not to mention, I could be reading into this, but my gut tells me I'm not. Verbally speaking, within the village seems like a second language because it is in of itself, right? It seemed to me that Roxy's father was not as comfortable nor familiar with speaking out loud as her mother. And he can be he's already trying his best, if that's the case, you know, by trying to use this other language. It's not an easy thing to do. And both of them were always there for her and supportive of her from what we could tell. And obviously after she left, cherished her memory.
After she left, giant things happened in terms of this community and its openness. A Superd came like 2 years after Roxy left.
Yeah.
And they ended up befriending Ruijerd, and Ruijerd walked through the village without getting these looks. And when we get Eris and Rudy coming through the village, these looks that Roxy talks about at the very beginning of the episode, it's so telling of how her mind is kind of warped to be critical of them from her childhood. Because the looks that they're giving her when she doesn't understand them isn't looks of like, ugh, like disgust or like, oh, that's an outsider. It's like, oh, huh. I thought she'd be able to understand me.
It's
That's
confusion.
It's confusion. And there's no animosity behind that, but because of what she's built up in her head. She's kind of created this monster, if you will, of how these people might be thinking about her. And
well, it's interesting because it's self-isolation and it's not necessarily false because based on how she phrased it, right? With it, drop the negative connotation. What does being an outcast mean, right? Like you're different from, if there's 20 people in the room and all of them have one thing in common except you could be considered an outcast. That doesn't necessarily say that the 19 other people in the room have awful intentions and hate you for being different, but being that one person who's different and then realizing that all at once, and it's not something like, oh, your hair color's not bluish purple. It's literally the entire foundation of communication for your entire life that you have realized is not the same.
I would say like maybe a hearing impaired or something like that, blind even.
Yeah.
But they're kind of real life examples of where it's almost a fundamental part of communicating with others is change. And in our society, not everyone is going to go out and learn sign language to communicate with you, but your family probably will, your parents, and I feel like that's a kind of
it's not a great connection because we don't know the intricacies of the world and the village,
the language works,
I think that it's easy for us to grasp onto, like, oh, what if somebody was born and raised by parents who only and was, you know, deaf or blind, and they communicated only through ASL, and then okay, great, and then they've never been taught that there was such a thing like telepathy or like verbal language, and then you come to discover that all at once. It's scary, man. But God, I love that they weren't mean or they weren't intentionally ostracizing Roxy. Like I think that adds to the complexity of the emotion within her character. The fact that the mother who came running with the kids, in my opinion, based on her expression, it seemed like she was almost like grateful. Thank you. Like, no, you shouldn't be like confused or scared. Like, it's okay. She helped you. She's nice.
I almost wonder if they were like, Mom, so-and-so fell and this nice lady helped me or whatever, but she's not understanding me. Like, kids ask questions. So they could have been asking their mom, why isn't this girl that looks like us responding to me?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people need information to be able to understand and accept things. And sometimes they need time. They need things to be spelled out for them some of the time. Yeah. And I think that now if Roxy were to move back home, I would say that there are probably people in this village that would be much more open to the idea of someone of their demon ancestry, like Ruijerd, you know, and speak to them.
I wonder if Roxy's presence in the village was enough to leave an impression and mark to let other people within the village be open to people who weren't telepathic.
I mean, if she ran away, it seems like a close-knit, relatively small village. One kid running away, I'm sure that sent a ripple. People have talked about that, I'm sure, in telepathy form for years. Yeah. And I'm sure they saw the emotional impact it had on her parents. So what if they had like a meeting, like a village meeting, where they were like, hey, we should probably be a little more loving and accepting to those that are different from us.
God, I love that so much. I love episodes like this, man. There are certain series that I'm able to enjoy episodes without any action or crazy things just as much, if not more, than episodes with them. And this show is exactly one of those. It pays off. There's so many side characters in anime and other shows that I fall in love with, whether to lean into a bit or not, that never give me anything else. It's so far in the other direction in regards to this show. It pays off every second that you put into it, man.
It's so funny, the dichotomy, the paradox that is within the show of like how heartwarming it can be.
Fucking Nokapara was Roxy's old guildmate. I swear, when we got the flashback of like of Roxy being like, oh yeah, 3 people around the table, I was like, I'm not gonna assume that's Nokapara.
It's just a
I'm
horse
sure
demon.
that there are many people who are horse people in this
Yeah.
world, and not all of them look alike.
And you're not gonna
Fuck
just
me.
generalize like that.
It was
Like,
Nokapara.
That horse is Nokapara.
God damn. And there was like a
Has to be.
little bit of like development even for his character in this. The whole like whether you buy it or not or believe it or not, he had the whole mindset like, oh yeah, I'm teaching him how rough the real world is.
I know.
Like
he's justifying it to himself.
he's not holding a grudge necessarily of like dead ends, right? He's
No.
like outwardly speaking, yeah, I got burned, bro.
Yeah, he's admitting it. If anything, he's probably saying to people, if anyone asked him, like, yeah, they're don't mess with them.
God. In the beginning of the episode when Rui Jerd was coming up to this dude and he was like, I am North God Cowman's own pupil, Arbor,
Apprentice.
the peacock blade, and he was like, smash cut, dead. But
I was, and I like right before it happened, I was like, please give me a smash cut to
Yeah.
him, like, you know, walking away or hurt, and they gave it to me, and I was like, wow. Sometimes, every once in a while, this show will give me what I want, what I know that I want. A lot of times it gives me what I want, but I didn't know I wanted it until I got it.
yeah.
But this time it gave me what I wanted.
This is one of the small, okay. So overall, especially since we started the channel, like I'm open to sub or dub, whatever. Everybody's different. It's completely subjective. And there are things that I love in both of them. Not that I love one more than the other in those specific instances too.
Some
but this
voice
is,
actors, sub or dub, like, amazing talent.
This is one of those few times that like I'm like, God, if I could voice anybody
You wanna be
in
this
dub,
guy?
I would love to be one of these nameless people.
Darn it,
Like,
they already cast. I'm sure there's already a dub of this.
yeah, but it's so great. When I think about it in the English language, it transfers very well comedically for me, like how extra it is. I am North God Calman's own pupil Arbor, the peacock blades, third apprentice Rodriguez. Like, you know, like it's so
Yeah.
proud. I can see from your bearing that you are a man of renown. Like,
And Ruger's like, huh?
I wish to request a bout. Ruger's like, okay. Probably sounds like Piccolo, Chris Sabat. But dude, it's great. And then everybody is like, I love how they're receiving him. Farewell, warrior of the superb.
I know.
That's great.
It's so really, I mean, just this whole little first interaction of kind of Rui Jerd's reactions to people kind of so nonchalantly and so happily embracing him and talking to him, and this guy's not bitter about losing to him at all. He's like, I'm gonna fight you again.
Yeah.
And then all these other people are happening upon them and wanting to battle. And it's really awesome, kind of. I mean, it works with what else happens. I mean, that's this show. Every episode is so perfectly like bookended, like start and finish. Of what is given to you, even if you're in completely separate areas in one half of the episode to the second and different characters. Thinking about children's shows, you always think that there was like an overarching theme to the episode. And I'm thinking about Adventure Time. And there's certain episodes of Adventure Time where there's like a certain theme and it's all the different characters and the theme is an overarching thing that's happening to each character. And I feel like Mushoku Tensei, the episodes are kind of in that same vein, or at least structured in a way that like makes complete sense. Like to have Rui Jerd here at the beginning interacting outside of the demon continent with these people and kind of having these really refreshing looks on his face, and then having Roxy go back home, learning about the Superds, learning about this kind of acceptance the community has now had toward outsiders.
I love it.
Perfectly fit.
It's perfect. It was such a good idea to pair those two interactions. And my favorite part of the Superb interaction, I loved that the guy was like so open to it and loving. But the best part of it is the game of telephone that it will be and how it will benefit the Superds all over, right? This guy is going to inevitably end up telling 30 people throughout his life, if not more. And those 30 people will tell 30 more. And like individual, like it's just gonna spread. And I love that so much. I love that we continuously see it, like every episode almost.
One of these days we're gonna walk into a town and we're going to find that they have been mass marketing, mass producing these statues.
Yeah.
And they're collectible that all children want a Rudy action figure.
What are the odds that Rudy's included like a serial number on each of them? Like,
that'd be so funny. This is the 50th person we've helped.
Yeah, or like, and just like for rarity, right?
You're
Do you have number
100.
1? Do you have number 51?
Number 1 wins wins a prize if you can get it.
Love it. Or there's like little Easter eggs on it. Oh, I drew Ruijerd's spear differently here, or his hair differently depending on where he was. Where's his headband at? You know. I love the idea of Roxy being like, Rudy, heal me with your healing magic while I'm
Eris?
seasick. Or Eris, yeah, sorry, Eris. But like I'm like, oh my god, what it could be just a joke, but it's like, oh man, do I have a headache right now? Could you use healing magic on that to heal that?
I mean, it'd be so convenient.
If I get motion sick, could you heal that? You know?
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
I wish I had someone around that could use healing magic. It sounds so convenient. But then I think I would be too spoiled and too soft, and then my pain tolerance would be horrible. And the one moment that person wasn't around anymore and I got a splinter, I would think I was dying.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not a good idea to have that around.
Roxy borderline had like a panic attack. And it's happened a couple times in the past few episodes with Rudy and Paul. And it's interesting to say, like, I enjoy that because I don't for the character, but you don't often see that kind of thing,
Like
or at least I don't. It's really interesting.
There's something really kind of raw to it that you don't normally see people working with mental health, anxiety, panic, and different things like that in like an animated medium. I haven't seen a lot of anime that kind of talk about these things or show these things.
I've seen live action shows do it, but not anime personally.
And I think that it's so awesome to see it worked into such a heartwarming adventure fantasy, but then also to have characters that have a realistic and attainable kind of interpersonal connections and real feelings and how they would work through their feelings, how they overcompensate.
Yeah.
You know, all these coping and all of these things make them almost feel like real people in a fantasy world, which almost makes the fantasy world seem more real to me as a viewer.
I really thought for a second Rudy had left the knowledge of hopscotch within Roxy's village. But in
then
Roxy's
we saw the flashback.
I
know. I was believing it until we saw that flashback.
Damn it.
So there's a few things that I would like to touch on, if that is cool. Interesting line at the very beginning of the episode. We only just reached the turning point. What does that mean? What does that spell for the rest of... I don't know why I was like, why am I talking like this? I don't know. But what does that spell for the next couple episodes? We did kind of say on our own that Rudy emotionally and in terms of his ability to create connections has kind of breached a barrier. He's kind of overcome an obstacle, which is he has now reinforced a connection with his father in this world. And he has fixed it. He has patched it. He has now created an actual real relationship and connection with Paul, and not just, oh, I'm playing a video game and this is my dad in the game connection. And so that is kind of a turning point for his character to have him interacting with those old characters that he had met previously. So I kind of do wonder what that means for going forward.
What I hope and feel like, I think it's going to delve further into like the maturity or like the development of personality and the feelings that you have to overcome. It seems like that's the route we've been going the past like 5-ish episodes, that it seems like the themes and instances are getting more and more specific to what decisions these characters need to make, who they'd affect, and why they need to prioritize themselves in some instances, and like what face to put on too. I'm kind of expecting it to get a little more interpersonal and political. I mean, where are we going? What happened to Soros?
What do we know that happened there?
What's going to happen when that outcome happens? Like, obviously we know that Eris is a little prepared, right? But or at least that's what she said. But once you come face to face with the realization that he didn't just die, right? He was executed,
and someone else is now,
and a person's behind that. What are your emotions? What are you going to do with that?
And there's another ruler of the region.
I think it's going to be a lot more complex and like delve more into that kind of scene.
And another reason to go off of this turning point, things are about to possibly get more they're definitely going to change, maybe get a little bit more specific, a little bit deeper, is that Rudy has said that he has now prioritized family and the reputation of the Superds over kind of enjoying his journey.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to hear him say, and I really, really hope that for his character that is a genuine want and not just, oh, the characters in this game want me and will respond well to me if I choose this path. I really do hope that conversation with Paul that he had before leaving has really impacted him, that he actually genuinely wants his family to be safe. And in that same conversation, genuinely wanting the rest of his family to be safe, he is very aware that it is possibly too optimistic to believe that all of his family is safe.
Yeah. But he has made the choice, and it's crazy because of how aware he is, right? He's like, I know the consequences of being too optimistic in this situation, but what's being negative going to breed?
There's
so I'm going to choose to be
both.
optimistic. Yeah, it's interesting, man. I think that, you know, his conversation with Paul did mean a lot, because it wasn't even Paul suggesting something and Rudy giving in. I think that at the end of that conversation, Rudy still owned up to his own. He could have easily gotten away with a couple things, but he didn't, and he used that opportunity to put everything on the table and grow from it. So I'm hoping that he does.
Yeah, I think Rudy chose in that moment, like Rudy and past life person. The person chose in that moment to care about this person in front of them actually, and not just, oh, this is my father in this life, and this is a person that I've met before. Like, to genuinely, like, I care about this person. Oh wait, I care about my family. It brings me back to when Rudy first saw blood and saw someone die for the first time in this life. And that realization that started to take hold of, like, oh, wait, yeah, I could totally die. And the people around me are real, like, living and have blood in them, and they could die.
Yeah.
And I do think that this, hopefully, it was a massive turning point for him, and is authentic and genuine, and not just him people-pleasing, trying to do what he thinks people would want him to, but also because he kind of wants to. I want it to be, like, really authentic. He wants this in his heart. He cares about these people.
You know what's weird? I can't explain it, but I feel like at the beginning of this episode, I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna at some point in the future see Ghislaine's tale and see where she is. I don't know why, but after this episode, for no reason, I feel like really bad. Like, I have a bad feeling about Ghislaine, like a death feeling, and I can't explain it.
I have a bad feeling. I had one, I think it was either last episode or the episode before, when Paul kind of, both to Rudy and to us, the audience, kind of shook us a little bit with the kind of gravity of, why are you assuming that everyone's okay? And then to find out that Eris hadn't even been. Yeah. Like, Eris was like, yeah, no, I'm prepared. I know that, you know, and that the viewer and Rudy, none of us had really thought about it. Like, and maybe you did, and that's cool, and that's impressive. Good job. But to have that, God, what was it? Oh, and so going into the future, I do not have great feelings that everyone is alive and everyone is well and everyone is healthy, because I think that this show has room to show me that the gravity actually came true.
Yeah. Okay, I have one more thing.
Okay.
Sometimes, you know, they're going throughout your day, you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, and then throughout the day, like, you're just hit with like loss after loss, and the worst is when after that you start feeling a little better, and maybe you get like a win under your belt, and then just you're reminded again of something that's a loss, and you're like, fuck, I've dug myself so deep into a hole today that, like, I just feel awful. But there's only one thing in those situations that can drag us out, regardless of who we are or where we are in life, and that is Geese. In season 1, episode 6.
Yes! Oh.
We see silhouettes of the fangs of the Black Wolf. And that
is Geese. The man, the myth, the legend, the wonderful friend.
That's Geese.
The wise man. Wise.
Thank you guys so much for watching Geese. Please like, comment, and subscribe, Geese. See you next time. I think of like Mob Psycho in a similar vein. I think of like Mob Psycho in a similar vein. I think of like Mob Psycho in a similar vein.
I think of like Mob Psycho in a similar vein.